Walking into Sarah's kitchen felt like stepping into a warm hug. The smell of roasted chicken mingled with laughter and chatter, creating a cozy atmosphere that immediately put me at ease. I was a bit of a hermit, preferring my books and lesson plans over social gatherings, but Sarah had a way of drawing me out of my shell. "Emily, you made it!" Sarah exclaimed, her voice a beacon in the bustling room. She dashed over, enveloping me in a tight hug that squeezed the breath out of me for a second. "Thought you'd bail last minute." I laughed, shaking my head. "And miss your cooking?" "Never." Sarah was the kind of friend everyone needed. Straightforward, with a no-nonsense attitude that was as refreshing as it was intimidating at times. Her husband, Mark, was the quieter counterpart, a gentle giant with a knack for listening that balanced Sarah's fiery spirit perfectly. As guests mingled, sipping on wine and nibbling on appetizers, I noticed a man I hadn't seen before. He stood out, not just because of his sharp suit that screamed "I mean business," but there was an air about him that caught my attention. He was chatting with Mark, but his gaze wandered, eventually locking with mine. "That's Michael," Sarah whispered, sidling up to me. "Quite the catch, huh?" I raised an eyebrow. "And he's here because?" Sarah's grin was mischievous. "Let's just say, I might have played matchmaker tonight." Before I could protest, Sarah was dragging me across the room, my heart hammering in my chest. "Michael, this is Emily, the friend I've been telling you about." "Emily, meet Michael, the city's most eligible bachelor." Michael extended his hand, his grip firm but gentle. "Pleasure to meet you, Emily." His voice was smooth, with a confidence that made my knees wobble a bit. "Likewise," I managed to say, hoping my nervousness wasn't too obvious. Dinner was served, and conversations flowed as freely as the wine. Michael was easy to talk to, sharing stories of his travels and business ventures that sounded like they were from another world compared to my quiet life as a teacher. "So, Emily, Sarah tells me you're shaping young minds." "That must be rewarding," Michael said, his eyes twinkling with genuine interest. I shrugged, feeling a blush creep up my cheeks. "It's more like herding cats, but yeah, it has its moments." Michael laughed, a sound that made my heart flutter. "I can only imagine. It takes a special kind of person to do what you do." The evening flew by in a blur of laughter and shared stories. As the night wound down, Michael offered to walk me to my car, a gesture I found charmingly old-fashioned. Standing beside my car, the cool night air felt electric between us. "I had a great time tonight, Emily. I was wondering if you'd like to go out sometime, just the two of us?" I hesitated, not used to this kind of attention. That sounds nice, Michael." "Great. I'll call you," he said, his smile sending a wave of warmth through me. "Yeah, I'd like that," I replied, the smile on my face feeling permanent. Driving home, I couldn't shake the feeling that tonight was the start of something new. Little did I know, that dinner at Sarah's wasn't just a simple gathering. Waking up to the chirping birds outside our bedroom window, I stretched, still marveling at the reality of my new life. Married to Michael, living in a house that seemed straight out of a magazine, it was a far cry from my cozy, somewhat cluttered apartment back in the city. The smell of coffee wafted up, pulling me out of bed and downstairs, where Michael was already up, looking every bit the successful businessman, even in his casual morning attire. "Morning, beautiful," he greeted, his smile bright. "Coffee?" "Yeah, thanks," I mumbled, still rubbing the sleep from my eyes. Taking the mug, I sipped the strong brew, letting it chase away the remnants of sleep. "So, what's on the agenda today?" Michael asked, his tone casual as he glanced over his phone. I shrugged. Thought I'd unpack some more boxes, maybe explore the neighborhood a bit. Michael nodded, his attention half on me, half on the emails he was scrolling through. "Sounds good. I've got meetings back to back today, won't be home till late." This had become the norm since we moved in. His presence, once constant and comforting during our courtship, had become more like a guest appearance in our home. I brushed off the nagging feeling of loneliness, chalking it up to the adjustment period of marriage. That evening, when Michael finally came home, I decided to broach the subject. "Hey, can we talk?" I asked as he loosened his tie, looking exhausted. He raised an eyebrow, sitting down on the sofa. "Sure, what's up?" "It's just, I feel like we're ships passing in the night lately. I miss us," I admitted, feeling a lump in my throat. Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. You know how it is. The business, it's demanding. I'm doing this for us." "I know, I do. But maybe we could set aside some time, just for us? A date night or something?" I suggested, hopeful. He looked at me for a long moment before nodding. "You're right. I'm sorry, Em. Let's do that. How about Friday night? Dinner at that Italian place you love?" A smile broke through my worries. "I'd like that." As we settled into a comfortable silence, me curled up with a book and Michael with his laptop, I couldn't help but feel that this was just a hurdle we'd overcome together. After our quiet moment of reconciliation, the days started to blend into one another. Michael tried to make time for us, scheduling those promised date nights, but his phone was always buzzing, pulling him back into the world of work. I found solace in setting up our home, making it ours, filling it with warmth and love, hoping it would bridge the gap that his absence created. One evening, as we sat on the back porch watching the sunset, a rare moment when his phone was silent, I decided it was the right time to bring up the topic that had been weighing on my heart. "Michael, have you thought about us having kids?" I ventured, my voice shaky with nerves. He looked at me, surprise flickering across his face, before it settled into a contemplative frown. "Kids? You know how chaotic things are right now. I barely see you as it is. Bringing a kid into this, we're just not ready." I felt a sting at his words, a mix of disappointment and frustration. "But we won't ever be ready. There's never a perfect time." I thought. We talked about this before. Michael let out a heavy sigh, running his hands through his hair. I know we did. But things are different now. The business is at a critical point, and we're just not in the right place for this, His words felt like a punch to the gut, leaving me winded. It wasn't the response I hoped for, and it hurt more than I expected. "So, what? We just keep waiting? Until when? Until it's too late?" Come on, don't be like that. It's not about putting it off indefinitely. Just, not right now, okay? Let's get through this patch, and we'll revisit. "I promise," he said, his tone gentle but firm. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The conversation had not gone as I hoped, leaving a heavy silence between us. As the night drew in, the gap between us felt wider than ever. 2 years flew by, and the change in Michael was like night turning into day, only in reverse. He was always at the office, buried in work, leaving me alone in our big, silent house. I found myself diving into my teaching, taking on extra classes, even snagged a part-time job to fill the echoing quiet of my days and nights. Michael? When he did show up, it was like living with a storm cloud. Parked in front of the TV, a beer in hand, he'd throw out comments about how I looked, how the dinner tasted like cardboard, or how the house wasn't up to his standards. It was nonsense, all of it. I kept our home spotless, cooked meals that would make a chef nod in approval, and as for my looks, I hadn't let myself go. But the way Michael went on, you'd think I'd given up on everything. Deep down, I knew this wasn't about me or how clean the house was. My gut told me there was someone else, that his late nights were more about who he was with than what he was doing. I've seen enough shifty glances in my time, taught enough kids to know when someone's hiding something. One evening, I couldn't take the charade any longer. Michael staggered in late, more booze on his breath than words in his hello. I was waiting for him, my mind made up. "We need to talk," I said, cutting right to the chase as he flopped down on the couch. "About?" He didn't even look up, just flicked through the channels on the TV. "Us. This." I gestured between us, the vast distance, despite the few feet. "I can't do this anymore, Michael. I'm thinking, we should get a divorce. Finally, he looked at me, his eyes narrowing. Divorce?